Sound like the guy from One Piece. Just watching Alabasta. He was doing the At my age now, I get the most fun out of anime and manga when I'm consuming it and I'm trying to draw out all the parallels from the plot, from the characters, and really trying to understand everything that the author is writing into the story. From parallels to life to, different philosophies, just the whole gist of it. I still try to find, just to enjoy things. Like I'm reading Chainsaw, I want to say Massacre, it's not Massacre, Chainsaw Devil, and yeah, I'm saying it right. I don't want to get roasted, but I just reread that. Well, I just read through that, and that was great. Just going through a first read and just like absorbing it for what it was. Man, that shit was fun as hell. You didn't have to go dig for anything extra, but when you do, or when I do, I find it to be so fun when I draw out parallels to when an author is writing something that can coincide with real life. And then what's a cherry on top of that is when those parallels have to coincide with real life, but I have a bias to it because it coincides with my life. I love that. So, hey everybody, hope doing all right on Valentine. Thank you for being here. And to give a little bit of insight about what we're going to be talking about today, as kids growing up, we're just so pliable. We're like clay being molded by everything going around us, from our parents' hobbies to the way they communicate with the people around them to, what we see on TV and what we start gravitating to, and then what we hear the kids at school like at home, what their favorite hobbies are at home and stuff like that. So we go home and, we start looking out for things like that. We're just absorbing everything unconsciously, just becoming these little human beings. And as we grow up older, through whatever we went through, sometimes I mentioned the unconscious part about things is because we can stay like that for the rest of our lives, where we're just unconsciously this person that was put together by everything we went through. Some people are consciously aware that they went through some things and they have, certain personality traits because of it. And maybe they're probably not their favorite personality traits, but they have never really done anything to fix it. And then we get to this next step. You go through certain things at home and you have the freedom at a certain age where you just really start analyzing, what you've been through and all this stuff to rebuild yourself into who you want to be. What I want to focus on here for this character is generational pain. Growing up, you can get that projected on you, right? Growing up, your parent may have gone through something with their parent, and down the ladder they never fixed it, so now it gets to you, and now you're getting the brunt force of what they went through, and they're projecting that stuff on you, and it kind of translates into who you are as you grow up into an adult. And then again, we get into those 3 steps, whether you're unconscious of it, conscious but don't change anything. I'm not flicking you off. Or you become conscious of it and you do change it and you become free to who you want to be. And Horikoshi has done a great job. I feel like he made this character the epitome of this said situation, and that is Shigaraki. How great of a character is this guy? I mean, for me at least, and I'm not gonna get into the comparison of he's a top tier villain and blah blah blah. For me, I really enjoy this guy because we've seen him develop into who he is. He has a foundation that he was built on, where we find out he went through some generational pain stemming from his dad and his grandmother, and then he meets All For One, and All For One offers him the ability to be free in life, to just be who he wants to be and express himself the way he wants to express himself. So that, with the generational pain, mixes into his foundation, and we see Shigaraki go through the all the arcs of My Hero Academia, constantly, building himself up, breaking himself down again to build himself up again. He's never shying away from reevaluating himself, reanalyzing himself, and knocking it all down to build himself back up into who we have now, which is a completed character who's shining over, every character in this story at this time. He's a better guy. He's a better villain. I'm not going to do the comparative stuff, but I was going to say he's better than Stain for my own reasons, bias. Anyways, and let's start at his generational pain, the cause of that, right? So we get this later on in the story. This is not the first thing we get when we see Shigaraki. We had to put the pieces together alongside of him because in the beginning, he didn't remember anything. He just had snippets of memory, right? The cause of his generational pain stems from his dad and his grandmother. Nana Shimuru being his grandmother and his dad being Kotaro Shimuru. Back in the past, we see that Nana Shimuru was at one time the holder of One for All. and she was raising her son Kotaro for a few years. We see that they were together as mother and daughter. Excuse me, whoa, mother and son, single parent at that as well. Let me add that in there. She was raising him for a long time, and it gets to the point where I think she starts to understand that to really go at all for one, as hard as she can, she realizes for herself that she needs to cut all ties. She can't have this guy pull up any trump card on her that's gonna make her fall back and not give it or her 100% or more. Kind of similar to a situation where we seen with Odin versus Kaido for that first time, where that witch transforms into I forgot the name of the fruit, but she transforms into Momo. Odin hesitates and then he gets clobbered by Kaido. She didn't want any of that to happen to her. She wanted to go at this guy full force. She decided that the best way to do that is to cut all ties with her son, dropping him off at a foster care system. Essentially, and exactly how her son ends up looking at it, Kotaro, is that she picked her job as a hero over being a mother. She's giving that up just to go save a bunch of people that she doesn't even know. In the words of Kotaro, or at least, just a bunch of random people in the world. He doesn't understand the concept of, sacrifices and things like that when it has to do with him. And he holds that attachment dear to her. And she writes him a letter trying to explain it to him. And, she does mention that, I would always love you, Kotaro. And we see Kotaro as an older adult as well, rereading that letter, sitting back and just being like, I wish you never loved me. So we can tell there that he still holds that resentment as he grows up older into an adult. But before we get into his adult stages of these panels, just to touch on the mindset of that, to actually go through, being raised with your mother for a long time, and then her sitting down and, saying like, hey, I got to give you up. Like, you have to forget all about me. You have to forget that I was your mother, basically. And we didn't get the exact age of how old he was, but we know he was young. I mean, he looked young at least, maybe 8, younger than that, I would assume. And fuck, man, that's just, fuck. That's hard to go through. I mean, I can only imagine it. And it's devastating as a child. For me, I was raised by a single mother. That's just a heart line, right there. It's a heartache, and I would be devastated. As Kotaro grew up, he was actually very successful, which makes sense. Nana Shimura was successful, and she was very talented. She had one for all. Kotaro was successful in whatever the career path that he chose, and we have Shigaraki, a talented, successful villain. But just to point out that talent runs through that family line, just a little nuance that I picked up on. But as he grew older and he had success, he ended up building himself a home for him, his wife, his 2 kids, and his 2 in-laws. I like this play that Horikoshi did here, where his mother, Nana, she ended up, putting so much space into her family that she didn't even want them to remember her, where, Kotaro grows up and builds a home just to house all his family in one place because he doesn't want them to be too far away. That's kind of where I pick up on that. And we see a panel later on in the flashback of as Shigaraki gets introduced to the story, where Shigaraki's mother mentions that they had an intent to be a happy family when they moved in this house. But from the panels that we do get of Kotaro as an adult, we can tell that guy is just really fucking bitter. He's just grumpy old. He's not old. He's a grumpy man. He's a bitter old man. He's holding on to that generational pain that he picked up from his mom. And well, this is when it becomes generational, because now he's holding on to that pain and he's passing it down to the next generation of his kids, just projecting it on him, not trying to deliver himself differently to his kids. Which he said he wanted to have a house full of love, so you can tell he had the intent to be different. But at the end of the day, when it came down to him to perform, he couldn't perform. He ended up, resorting down to this bitterness and projecting that, pain that he had from his mother onto his kids, to the point where Shigaraki's 5 years old, asking his mother, why does his dad hate him? Like, that doesn't just happen because Kotaro has this one rule in the house, the one big rule in this house, that no hero talk, which is already dumb enough and hard enough to deal with in a real hero society. In My Hero Academia story, you can walk down the street and give a hero a high five, dap him up, say what's up, get his number, something, her number. You can have real interactions with a hero, so that tell a 5-year-old that doesn't even understand and can't, conceptualize the concept of being a hero and what it actually entails, and just understands the highlights of what that means of being a hero, and all the cool glory of saving people, and penalizing him for that, beating him for that, abusing him for that, and to have a 5-year-old have to question whether you love him or not just because of that, like, fuck, man, tighten up, dude, and we seen panel by panel the little seed of hatred, and I don't want to call it evil, but hatred for the household that Shigaraki was going through, just growing and growing and growing. His itch was getting, more severe the more he was in the house. And you can tell, well, now you can tell, he was made it known in his flashback that through all the situations he was going through with his dad, every, conflict and whatnot, he would look around for help, but no one would ever reach out to him the same way. Just to put that into context, his family never reached him in the way they needed to. They was always just hesitant to get in the way of Kotaro because he was just a stern figure in the house. That was his house. He built his rules. Don't break his rules. Don't interrupt him as he's abusing. Yeah, I'm gonna keep that, as he's abusing his child. To teach him how to be and teach him how to look at heroes, because the kid can't come up with his own damn ideals about how he feels about heroes and whatnot. So it's just a really fucking dark place to live in. And one day, a 5-year-old Shigaraki and his older sister, she's not much older, maybe 2-3 years. I'm not sure if we got her age as well. But she takes Shigaraki into their dad's study, and they find an image of Kotaro and Nana together. And Nana is actually dressed in one of her hero outfits. So Shigaraki is elated, super happy that he has a hero in his family, that he had a hero in his family. So he was just super happy about that, right? But kids being kids, they didn't put things back the way they go, right? I mean, we all done it. And not putting it back caused Kotaro to catch on, and he pressed Shigaraki's older sister about it. And she lied and say that Shigaraki was the one that was in there, and he was the one that pulled the picture out, and so on and so forth. So at the same point as that conversation was going on, Shigaraki was outside playing fetch with his dog, and we seen a little jolt where his quirk became activated, and his dad runs, out the door, and smacks him in the face. They have a little back and forth again, and his dad's telling him, heroes are just people. That's not a hero. I think. I should have looked at this, but I believe he said that wasn't a hero. That was a monster. Heroes. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Hold on. No, what's that? What's the? No. What's the Wheel of Fortune? No. Oh, there we go. Dun 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 da da dun dun dun. Dun 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 da da dun. No. Dun 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 da da dun dun dun. Dun 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 da da dun dun dun. Yes, found it. He did say that was a monster. That was no hero. How the fuck you telling that to a 5-year-old, bro? What the fuck is wrong with you, man? People, get your shit together. In real life, too, man. Get your shit together. Don't fucking have your issues that came from someone that doesn't have nothing to do with your child. She's obviously not in his life. Why the fuck are you projecting that on him, man? Get that shit together, bro. You smacking him, beating him up, abusing your family. Calling you can feel the way you feel about your mother, but to your fucking son, bro, god damn, man, get your shit together. But anyway, he beats fucking Shigaraki there and leaves him in the backyard, which is bad enough because he has the fucking allergy issues that we know about. Shigaraki's holding and cuddling his dog, consoling him. This is when it gets dark. I hate talking about this fucking part. He decays his dog. Of course, decays his dog. He starts freaking out because he thinks there's a villain attacking him. And his sister at the same time was walking outside as he's freaking out in blood. And I don't think he was actually yelling because he was just had like a frog in his throat from just the shock. And his sister sees the blood and all the whole crazy mess, and she panics and tries to run away. Shigaraki just reaches out just to help, just like for help, and grabs her, and she decays. So he's still thinking he's under attack by a fucking villain for some reason. His grandparents and his mother rush outside, and he touches the floor by accident. He doesn't understand, so he touches the floor, starts to decay the floor. We know his quirk decays from one thing to another. Touches his mother and his grandparents, and at the same time his mother starts to decay. She leaps forward to grab him and console him as she goes to pass away, but she actually just, decays into pieces before she ever gets to actually touch him, which I wonder, could that relay into him getting decayed? I don't know. I'm not gonna think too much about that. At this point, grandparents gone, mother gone, sister gone, the pet's gone, the dog's gone. Excuse me. And his dad comes outside, for the commotion. And again, Shigaraki's trying to reach out to his dad for help, like he did for everybody else. And his dad panics, grabs a yard tool, smacks him in the face, and that's where he gets the cut over his lip from. And Shigaraki snaps. That little seed of evil that we've seen through the panels of his backstory growing, just lit up there. Well, I don't want to call it evil. That seed of just hatred for his situation that he was in, the itch to just destroy the situation he was in. He leaps on his dad, grabs his dad by the face, and decays his dad. Fuck. That's fucking harsh. That's for a fucking 5-year-old to do, man. Come on. And now, after this situation happens, the generational pain is over. It's done and over with. And we find Shigaraki walking the streets for hours and hours and hours through this big city. And we've seen, the translation bubbles of Shigaraki thinking to himself. And he's saying, in a big city like this, I can understand why a hero or a police officer, somebody, wouldn't come to find me, because a kid that just went through a situation like this is just a small blimp in hero society compared to what's going on in this big city, supposedly, at least, what he was trying to convince himself as to. And people were walking by him, just looking at him like super creepy, like, who the fuck is this little kid all bloodied up and stuff. A grandma, old lady stops, looks at him and says, gotta go, dog, gotta go to work. Like, I'm not even gonna try to talk to you. A police officer or hero is gonna come save you. And Shigaraki ends up strolling the whole night by himself with no help until he just finds a little alleyway to sit in and cry. And he even says in his translation bubbles that, his itch was gone after he, decayed his family, and he thought it was gone for good. It could have been gone for good, but I guess the itch started again when he just walked around the whole fucking city and not one hero saved him. So he kind of meshed that experience into what his dad was teaching him for so long, and that really developed his hate for the hero society that we're in. And we all know that All For One ended up finding Shigaraki at this point and, raising him up to be a prodigy, but not raising him up to be an exact image in beliefs and ideals of what All For One believed in. I don't even think we really understand who All For One is at this point. We don't have like a direct, stern backstory from him. I know we could just get little bits and pieces. Maybe I should do a little more research to that and not, talk about shit that I don't really know about. But for the most part, what we do see from Shigaraki and All For One, again, is that All For One isn't throwing his ideals onto Shigaraki, but just more giving him the layout to be free. And what Shigaraki takes from All For One and mixes in his foundation and uses as a building block is All For One mentions that laws, ideals, morals, all this whole justice system and, the ethics you're supposed to walk around and, abide by in society and life, that they're just all fabricated by the person who thought them up. That guy just felt like that's what everyone should walk around and be. And he was telling Shigaraki to be who you want to be. Find freedom. Don't hold your itch in. Let everything out. Be Shigaraki. And find out whoever Shigaraki is. Don't feel like you need to contain who Shigaraki is just because of these certain laws and presets that are already made before you were even born. We get examples of Shigaraki trying to figure things out. As, he says after his first time he killed, he felt calm, but he feels like disgusting. But the same way he feels freedom, that he's able to do whatever he wants to do. So he's picking up on certain things that he wants to grow on. And for similar reasons, he wears the hands of his family on him. And he mentions that he just has snippets of his past. He doesn't have the full depiction of what happened, but he does have the feelings in his heart still. He just doesn't have the memories to go along with them, at least. He has the audio, just not the visuals, making a simile. But he says when he has the hands on, he feels disgusting, like in the bottom of, he wants to throw up. But at the same time, he feels calm, so you can tell he's just so here and there and here and there. He's just doing so much developing within the story. He's, left and right, frustrated, irritated, just spoiled little brat, really, what he comes off as. Horikoshi writes a bunch of little Easter eggs, one of them being Bakugo, where Shigaraki kind of resonated with Bakugo, seeing how crazy and his attitude was. Like, Bakugo's ego is basically Shigaraki's itch to destroy. Shigaraki thought the same way All For One did, where All For One picked up Shigaraki, because he found him have an itch to destroy. And Shigaraki was trying to pick up Bakugo, where this kid's ego was just villainous and it's just very rambunctious and loud, and I want to kill you. You know what I'm saying? We all know who Bakugo is, and he can tread that line sometimes, it seems like. And Shigaraki wanted to make a play on that. Another Easter egg is after this situation happened where Shigaraki bumped into Deku at the mall, right after the Stain situation. At this point in the story, this is where we really get to see Shigaraki really break himself down for the first time, because he's so frustrated that Stain is number one and everywhere. And for the night that Stain had the climax when he fought, the students of 1A, and Shigaraki tried to steal the light from him, letting the Nomus out and trying to take that shine away from him with the League of Villains. And at the end of the day, after everyone was defeated, Stain had the most notoriety. Shigaraki was just second place. He couldn't understand that. He was so mad walking the streets, seeing everybody, trying to dress up as Stain, just random little kids trying to wear, a villain's mask, essentially. And he was just pissed. And so when he bumps into Deku, they have those conversations back and forth. And Shigaraki comes to the realization here, like, you know what? I know what I need to do, and I'm going to actually use this Stain recognition to build off of that. So now he's, he broke the pieces down, and now he's building them back up. And right after this, we get the Easter egg that I'm referring to. Deku's at the police station. He had to fill out a statement about what happened with Shigaraki. And he asks All Might, hey, All Might, was there anyone you ever couldn't save? And All Might answers, like, of course, people I couldn't save, but gotta smile and carry on, so on and so forth. And the detective butts in, trying to lighten the mood up for Deku, telling him, like, hey, man, Shigaraki's just a sore loser. There's no one that has not been saved every time this guy shows up on the scene. Just making a play to Shigaraki being the one that went through something and wasn't saved. No hero ever came to save him. No police officer ever came to save him. Not a vigilante. Nobody. The villain came in and swept him off his feet. So you calling this guy a sore loser, but at this point in the story, we didn't know about Shigaraki's past. But it's just funny to hear him say that. Horikoshi really just threw that in there, like, yeah, all right, we'll catch you later with this one. So I thought that was pretty sweet. And also, the last Easter egg that I can remember off the top of my head is when Shigaraki was going against Videstro, and in the beginning of that fight, Videstro's going crazy, and he's like, you're just a spoiled little brat from All For One running around these streets. What burdens do you bear? You just want to destroy for the sake of destroying and not to create a future. And Shigaraki does butt in there and says, no, I would like a future. I don't want to just destroy everything. But the point is, he mentions what burdens do you bear, and then like a chapter or two later, we dive deep into Shigaraki's backstory, and we find out about that generational pain that made this guy a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's the burdens that he bear. Man, caught a few bodies at 5 years old, and burdens. We're talking about burdens. God damn. You get a real sense of freedom with Shigaraki as a character here, besides the villain part, just in the whole spectrum of him having a really painful history and being presented with the ability to be free, and him not understanding exactly what that means. And as the story goes on, he's redeveloping himself over and over and over again, building structure behind his ideals, and to the point where he doesn't care if you accept his ideals or not. In the beginning, he would get frustrated. He'll get mad when people don't understand him. He would get mad if people just talk to him in general. He just had a very immature attitude, and we see him mature over arc where he fails and he fails and he fails, and now he's winning. And in the point in the manga, he's on the winning side at this point, and he got himself there. He earned the point. He earned himself the role that he currently has. He's not the spoiled little brat from All For One anymore. He earned an army. He wasn't given an army. He's a character now that put everything that he went through, put structure behind his ideals, and said, you know what, this system revoked me, and now I revoke it back. These citizens are so coddled and cuddled by these heroes that they wouldn't even save a little boy walking the street. My family wouldn't even reach out to save me from this person in my household. I'm going to destroy this. And whether you accept it or not, that's what makes us heroes and villains. And whether you accept it or not, that's what makes us villains and villains, because for the same reason, him and Stain didn't see eye to eye, and he didn't understand Stain's long, brought out ideology. Excuse me. He didn't understand Stain's ideals as well. I remember Shigaraki mentioning in the story, like, man, I don't have long drawn out convictions like this. Like, I just want to destroy this whole society for what it stands for. And I know some people have a problem with that, And I feel like people want villains to have a structure and a blueprint where, from the start of the race, at every checkpoint, we have to reach these certain goals and just be so dynamic and put together with, so many different levels of thought into it. We've seen, again, this is how he was written, to develop as the story is going, to look himself in the mirror and understand the situations that he's going through, the experiences, so on and so forth. I don't understand why he gets so much bullshit from the community, but I was trying to stay away from that, but I did have to touch that for a second. And I really do love how Horikoshi has written him and how Shigaraki has been in these past few chapters, facing off with all the heroes, staying calm and collective in the fight, but still talking shit, finding the time to lay Endeavor on the ground and raise up his right hand, where before, if he would be going back and forth for heroes, he'll get irritated and annoyed and start scratching himself, and he'll need his hands and things like that. Now he's at the point where he keeps only one hand, and that's just for decor at that point for his villain outfit, because he doesn't even need it. He doesn't feel like he needs to be cuddled up anymore. He doesn't have any of those feelings anymore. He's a fully realized character at this point, and we've seen him go from just a spoiled little brat, not understanding his convictions himself and what he needs to have backing those, to a guy that knows exactly where he needs to be to get exactly what he wants from his life. That's more I can say from the main character of the story. I mean, it sucks that Deku is paired up with Shigaraki as, main villain, main character, because Shigaraki goes through so much in this story. I mean, we've talked the whole video about it. And if we want to make a whole video about Deku, we're going to be talking about Deku's struggle with power-ups. It's not a one-for-one here. Deku does not contrast Shigaraki in the slightest bit that Shigaraki deserves, at least for me, in my opinion. Didn't want to go here with this either. I'm going to rant a little bit about this, but Horikoshi, you can do better than this. Can we get a redaction? Can we get just restart this fucking story over? Throw somebody in. Throw Deku in with just, come on, man. This guy's a little fucking bitch, man. I hate to see Deku paired up with Shigaraki, man. But for the most part, who Shigaraki is at this point, you have to respect, even, again, bringing it back out into reality, someone who's went through some shit and who is unapologetically who they are. How can you not love that? I'm in a certain place in life where this just rings off to me in a certain way. I'm sure everyone has kind of been through this in life where, they're in a certain mindset, they're going through certain things, and they listen to a song, they listen to an album, they watch a movie, they read a book, see a play, anything, it could be anything, and it just sticks to them, and they just have this little bookmark for the rest of their life where they get a certain bit of nostalgia from that, whatever it may be, that whatever type of artistry it is, gave them from where they were at mentally at that time as well. And that's where I get from Shigaraki, and a little bias there, yes, but looking back at it and analyzing the story objectively, Shigaraki is a great character in my opinion. Great villain, great character among anime, not just among My Hero Academia. But that's it for me, guys. That really concludes everything I really had to say right now for Shigaraki as a character. I just really wanted to take this time to give praise to Cocaine Shigaraki. That guy is just cold-blooded. And again, it respect to a person unapologetically being who they are. We all go through things in life. We all, have different stages where we're under development as well. And we always should be under development, constantly growing, looking ourselves in the mirror, constructing ourselves to do better, and telling ourselves, critiquing ourselves, being our biggest critics, and not trying to make this a motivational speech at all, but just sitting down, looking at it for the big picture. Be you, unapologetically, be free, be happy, eat some good food. I'm getting out of here. You have a good day, a good night, a good evening, a good whatever. I'm going to have a good sleep, and I'm going to bed. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning over here. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you watching this video, and appreciate you getting this far into the video. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification if you want to get rung up with more videos like this. I appreciate you being here like always. Valentine out. Thank you.